So today we're going to start on trap number 3 within chapter 8 of the book Women Who Run with the Wolves, and it's going to be a good one. So this one's called Burning the Treasure, Abre de Alma, Soul Famine. And so yes, soul famine, already resonating probably. If you haven't seen my videos, everything that we discuss is through the lens of recovery from narcissistic abuse, so just keep that in mind. And if you want to jump in, I have previous videos where I've started review of chapter 8 in the book, so if you want to look back, I categorize them by saying A, B, C, D per chapter. So I believe this is the 4th video on chapter 8. We're just taking our time, and we're not reading word for word. We're just picking out bits and pieces for teaching and learning purposes. So if you've been joining me, thank you for coming back. And so let's dive in. So it says, there's burning that goes with joy, and there's burning that goes with annihilation. One is the fire of transformation. The other is the fire of decimation only. It is the fire of transformation we want. But many women give up the red shoes and agree to become too cleaned up, too nice, too compliant to someone else's way of seeing the world. Just like, the manipulators, right? We give our joyful red shoes to the destructive fire when we digest values, propagandas, and philosophies wholesale, psychological ones included. The red shoes are burned to ashes when we paint, act, write, do, or be in any way that causes our lives to be diminished, weakening our vision, breaking our spirit bones. So it's, I mentioned, it's like a self-betrayal. It's like an abandonment of your, what you know to be true, your truths, an abandonment of your truths in favor of the person that you're entangled with, a close friend, your partner. So you're surrendering your truths to this other person. And that's symbolized in the story by burning the handmade red shoes that were so precious to the girl. And the girl represents us in the story. It says, too many women made a terrible vow years before they knew any better. As young women, they were starved of basic encouragement and support. And so filled with sorrow and resignation, they put down their pens, closed up their words, turned off their singing, rolled up their artwork, and vowed to never touch them again. A woman in such a condition has inadvertently entered into the oven along with her handmade life. Her life becomes ashes. And I would say too, it says, as young women, they were starved of basic encouragement and support. And that may be true. And I think this plays a part. I think when we come out of a narcissistic entanglement and we start to evaluate, like, how did we not know to walk away? How did we, stay as long as we did? We start evaluating those parts of us that possibly contributed to the length or the depth of the entanglement. And so yes, it may be a situation where when we were young, we didn't have encouragement, we didn't have guidance, and it may have been intentional. Our parents may have had narcissistic traits. Our parents may have just been very naive and not known how to guide us. So many reasons, So basically, she talks about your life dying away in the fire of self-hatred. She references complexes and how they can bite hard, and what it can do to you. And it reminds me of, in the previous video, I mentioned being frozen. So she talks about here that, we could spend many years not doing. It says not going, not moving, not learning, not finding, not becoming. So it's that being stuck. It's it's like that blockage in your life that happens when you're entangled in these narcissistic situations. It's kind of like your life, your true life, your intended life with purpose, gets derailed and comes to a standstill. But we learn, you know what I'm saying? Just like that Bible verse, God uses all things for the good of those who love Him. I mean, we get something out of it. We learn, and then we can, help others. So she talks about, how people can be destructive to us, and how they can feel envious of us, and because they're envious, the destructive way that they can impact us can be both subtle and not so subtle. So she mentions that. And then it says, when the personal soul life is burnt to ashes, a woman loses the vital treasure. I just want us to keep that in mind. A treasure, vital treasure, and begins to act dry-boned as death. In her unconscious, the desire for the red shoes, a wild joy, not only continues, it swells and floods, and eventually staggers to its feet. It takes over, ferocious and famished. To be in the state of hambre del alma, a starved soul, is to be made relentlessly hungry. Then a woman burns with a hunger for anything that will make her feel alive again. A woman who has been captured knows no better and will take something, anything, that seems similar to the original treasure, good or not. A woman who is starved for her real soul life may look cleaned up and calmed on the outside, but on the inside she is filled with dozens of pleading hands and empty mouths. In this state, she will take any food, regardless of its condition or its effect, for she is trying to make up for past losses. Even though this is a terrible situation, the wild self will try over and over again to save us. It whispers, whimpers, calls, drags our fleshless carcasses around in our night dreams until we become conscious of our condition. It takes steps to reclaim the treasure. So I just want you to be thinking about, the treasure. What is the treasure? So I think what's going to determine how we respond and act when we come out of these situations is how conscious we are of what really went down. Are we aware that this person used us and manipulated us, or do we just come out of it still naive, still unconscious? I think that's going to play a big factor. And so then she goes into wolves, and this is really interesting. So she starts talking about how wolves have she says, a very bad and unearned fairy tale and real life reputation. And in actuality, wolves are dedicated social creatures, she says. So she talks about how the pack works together and why they do what they do. And she says that there are two instances in which a wolf kills excessively. So this is where she's, remember she's talking about, when we come out of bad situations where we feel soul starved, how we can sometimes swing the other way into excess. So she's going to be thinking about that as I'm reading through. It says there are two instances in which a wolf kills excessively. In both, the wolf is not well. A wolf may kill indiscriminately when it is ill with rabies or distemper. A wolf may kill excessively after a period of famine. The idea that famine can alter the behavior of creatures is quite significant for soul-starved women, because 9 times out of 10, a woman with a spiritual/psychological problem that causes her to fall into traps and be badly hurt is a woman who is currently being or has been critically soul-starved. So through that lens, you start to think, looking back, did you get involved to begin with this narcissist because you were soul-starved from the get-go, from previous experiences from your childhood, things like that? Did it cause you to ignore red flags that maybe you wouldn't have ignored had you not been soul-starved when you first met this person? So there's things like that that we can think about, we can evaluate. But the point is that she says a wolf, isn't going to kill indiscriminately. In other words, do things in excess for no good reason unless they're ill, which, obviously the metaphor is that, that we are ill when we act in that same way, not killing, obviously, but like doing anything in excess, from a famine. So, because she's relating this to the soul famine. So she says, for the wolf, famine usually ends in springtime when the snow begins to melt. Following a famine, the pack may throw itself into a killing frenzy. Its members won't eat most of the game they kill, and they won't cache it. They leave it. They kill much more than they could ever eat, much more than they could ever need. A similar process occurs when a woman's been captured and starved. Suddenly free to go, to do, to be, she is in danger of going on a rampage of excesses too, and feels justified about it. The girl in the fairy tale too feels justified in gaining access to the poisonous red shoes at any cost. There is something about famine that causes judgment to be blighted. So, the difference is, through the lens of recovery from dark abuse, is that, when you first come out, you don't trust your own judgment. And I think that can work in our favor with relation to what this is talking about right here. Because if we don't trust our own judgment, it's going to keep us from running out there and doing things mindlessly. We're going to be super cautious, and that's why a lot of people go into like isolation, or what's called hermit mode, referred to as hermit mode sometimes. And I think that winds up being a good thing for us. And even necessary for us to process and learn. And that's why the key to how we behave coming out is going to be how aware we are of what really we were involved in and what really went down. And that awareness is going to keep us extra cautious, It says, after famine, there is a fear. Here we go. One will again be captured someday. So that fear is going to keep us, reserved for some time. It says, overkill through excesses or excessive behaviors is acted out by women who are famished for a life that has meaning and makes sense for them. The starving woman endures famine after famine. She may plan her escape, yet believe that the cost of fleeing is too high, that it will cost her too much libido, too much energy. She may be ill-prepared in other ways too, such as educationally, economically, spiritually. Unfortunately, the loss of treasure and the deep memory of famine may cause us to rationalize that excesses are desirable. And it is, of course, such a relief and a pleasure to finally be able to enjoy sensation, any sensation. A woman newly free from famine just wants to enjoy life for a change. Her dulled perceptions about the emotional, rational, physical, spiritual, and financial boundaries required for survival endanger her instead. So, the key, in my opinion, when you come out in the beginning of these situations is to live mindfully with intention. So if we instead find a good median where we are intentionally making new memories, just here and there, that's going to sustain us as we're healing, as we're continuing to learn and refine our discernment. So just mindfully regulating our participation in the outside world, here and there, to kind of break up that isolation that's required and necessary for processing, learning, healing. It's just all about intention and living mindfully. So if we can just pause long enough to think about things, then I think it's going to really save us a lot of headache and keep us safe, you know. So the next trap is number 4, injury to basic instinct, the consequence of capture. And we will get into that next time. This one's a touch short, but that's okay. I'd rather, if I kept going, it would be super long. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. And I thank you guys for coming along, as always. And I hope that you did get something out of it. And so thank you, and I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll see you soon.